today, once again, the United States is the most respected country on earth. And part of that, I think, is because of the work that we did to re-engage the world and say that we want to work with you as partners with mutual interest and mutual respect.
President Obama saying he has made America the most respected country on earth again. But some here saying there are plenty of costly examples around the world showing why that's not true. So who's right? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asin. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Steve Forbes, Rich Karlgaard, Elizabeth McDonald, Sabrina Schaefer, John Tamny, and Bruce Jackson. Steve, the president says we're respected again. And you say?
Well, Michael Jackson had Neverland. Barack Obama has Fantasyland. Among our allies, there's huge worry and no respect for his leadership. The Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians all believe now the U.S. is a declining power, which is why the Chinese flagrantly now are hacking the U.S. government files the way they came out last week. And in terms of the American voters, Barack Obama now polls under George W. Bush. So there's not respect. There's like for the United States, but not respect in terms of a global power.
And Bruce, we were trying to figure out what metric the president is using to make that claim that we're more respected. There was a Gallup poll that we think is the poll to which the president was referring that does show the U.S. Approval rating going up a little bit. But the same poll also shows the U.S. approval rating going down from 2009 to 2014. So it's a little confusing here.
Well, I think a poll that we should all consider when you talk about the respectometer is the very low bar that was the Bush and Cheney administration for starters. But if you look at those countries that you flashed on the screen, I mean, they might not always like us, but they respect us. They're in on the nuclear talks with Iran with us. And also, we got a Pacific trade deal going on that's going to benefit potentially 40% of the world's economy. So I think we're doing pretty well.
Well, but Rich, the question of respect is related to the question of trust. And people show their trust and respect by actions. We just had this meeting in the United States on ISIS, to which we invited all these Arab leaders, one of whom, the King of Bahrain, said, sorry, I can't come to that. I've got a more important date with the Queen of England at a horse show.
Yeah, look, people do respect the United States around the world, but it has nothing to do with this administration. I mean, you could make the argument that you know, the U.S. is very popular because money is flowing in, our stock market is high, our real estate is getting buoyed by foreign investment. That has nothing to do with the President of the United States who's taking credit for this.
Well, and he's also, EMAC, taking credit for a robust economy. A lot of Americans wouldn't agree with that, but here's what he said about that. When I came into office, the U.S. and the world was going through a terrible economic crisis. We ended up avoiding a terrible depression, his word, and within a year, the economy was growing again. So he thinks things are great.
No, listen, this is not the immaculate recovery by any means. Listen, it's so easy to flip the switch on $7 trillion in spending. That's what the president did, and the policies he's enacted have flatlined growth since then, the worst recovery since FDR. You know, this statement from the president reminds me of what he said in the past. You know, if you like your insurance plan, you can keep your plan. There's not a smidgen of corruption at the IRS. Hashtag my thoughts are facts, you know, whatever I say. But, you know, listen, the problem with the U.S. and the administration is it appears not serious. Not serious about Cuba. Not serious about blowing off the red line comment about Syria using chemical weapons. Nice. And so, you know, respect is one thing. What we need, though, is to show that the United States is the leading light of freedom and democracy and free market economies around the world.
Well, and Sabrina, specifically, the question that EMAC was alluding to, how many times has the president drawn a line in the sand,
right,
and whoever he's drawing that line for, they go over the line and we do nothing? I think of Syria. I think of Russia invading Ukraine. There are a lot of examples of that. Why should anybody respect us when we don't hold to our word?
Well, right. I think that's exactly it. I think this concept of respect is one about leadership. And is this somebody who is principled and has a clear ideology and a clear sense of what he's doing as a leader? And I think that's why we're seeing that people aren't taking us as seriously. And if you look on the flip side, I actually looked at the Pew Research Center had a poll about our views of Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, and they were quite high. 40% have approval of him. I suspect they don't all like him, but they recognize that he is a principled leader, and that is what we're lacking right now here in America.
Well, John, they say the only poll that matters is the vote on Election Day, which I tend to agree with. But I'm going to throw another one out there because while we had a pretty good jobs number on Friday, a lot of people still don't feel that the economy is doing well for them. 60% of Americans believe we're still in a recession.
No, let's face it, we'd be much better off if President Obama had played golf every day of his administration. The economy would be booming right now.
It's almost summer.
But I do think
Give him time. It may happen before.
That's right. We'd be better off. But we are the most respected nation on earth. And per Rich's point, it's not because President Obama. It's not because of President Bush. It has to do with the fact that despite our stumbles, we're still viewed as the place where individuals can achieve what maximizes their individual talents. People around the world want to live in the United States. They want to prosper here. What a shame that we're not as open to people in the way we are properly to foreign goods.
Well, Steve, I think John makes a very important point. There are still people literally dying to get into the United States. So despite going down economically, down in the respect of others, et cetera, we are still that extraordinary nation, right?
We're an extraordinary nation, and this president, unfortunately, has really hit some of the economic principles that have made us great. And that's why this upcoming election cycle, I think, is going to be a good one. You are going to see very radical and positive Reagan-esque tax proposals, health care proposals, monetary proposals to get America moving again, just as Ronald Reagan did in the 1980s. And I think that's what the world is counting on, the U.S. coming back again, as we always do.
Bruce, after all this, do you still think that the president is on to something with this respect thing?
I do. I think in the last 2 years, you should give him some credit on the Pacific trade deal. I mean, he is a lame duck president, and he could golf every day, I assume, but maybe that's what I would do. But he's pushing forward, and he's trying to win
hold on a
Democratic
second, Bruce.
votes.
We don't even know what's in that trade deal. Half of it is still secret, and in fact, we just found out that part of it had to do with global warming. I'm not sure exactly how, because we don't know what's in it.
No, you bring up a great point, but by and large, there are 18 countries, I think, that are involved in the deal, and I think that they want this to happen. So I think that forging ahead, the respectometer is going to go up if he can get it done, and we can see it.
But Rich, you know, sometimes world leaders differ from the opinion of the people, and you look at what happened in Australia, by the way. We had a change of administration in Australia, which is a significant country, by the way, because of the people going against this whole climate change thing. That was the main reason why they changed leadership in Australia. So maybe a lot of these leaders who respect the president are out of touch with their people.
Look, we all know that it's politically correct to say that you like President Obama, even if you don't ultimately have respect for him. So the underlying support that he has here at home and around the world is not nearly as strong as the polls might show or as he might think.
Well, Emac, is he living in a delusion? Some people have used that word delusion to refer to what the president said.
Like I said, I think he thinks his thoughts are facts. And so I think that's always been the problem with the president. By the way, I think 4 of the 6 Mideast leaders did not attend the president's meeting in Washington, D.C. Wow, that's a lot.
They sent their seconds and everything.
Yeah, they sent their seconds. Yeah. You know, I don't see people dying to get out of this country. That's the important point of this discussion, I think, is how respected the United States was even before President Obama came into office.
John, if we get the right policies together, do you think that we could have a growth spurt that would make what we've seen over the past several years of our recovery look as pathetic as a lot of us here think it is?
Oh, of course it would, and it involves the government doing nothing. There's this myth out there promoted by Republicans and Democrats that recessions are bad. Recessions are healthy. They're the process whereby we cleanse ourselves of really bad habits. Leave the economy alone. Get the policies that Steve talks about a lot in terms of low taxes and good money. A staggering economic boom. I would just add part of that is being a magnet for the world's talent. That's what made us rich in the first place. Let's open it up.
Got to leave it at that. Well, obnoxious pat-downs by the TSA at airports may make you feel secure, but you shouldn't. Undercover agents say TSA screeners at airports missed weapons and fake bombs nearly 96% of the time. Is it time to